Welcome back to Growing the Game today. We are joined by a coach who has made history on multiple fronts this season. He is the head coach of the APR basketball club in Rwanda and served as the assistant coach for the RSSB Tigers, helping lead them to a stunning debut in the BAL Season 6. The Tigers just completed an incredible run in the Kalahari Conference, finishing 4-1 and securing their spots in the playoffs in Kigali, which will be played on home soil. Before that, Coach Maya had already built a championship pedigree, winning 2 titles with the APR. He has been instrumental in the rise of Rwandan basketball. Welcome, Coach, and I'm very pleased to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here. A great introduction, by the way.
Yeah. First of all, before we kickstart this episode, I would want to congratulate you on your standing performance with the RSSB Tigers in South Africa BAL Kalahari Conference.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very tough conference, very tough situation for us, just pulling everything together at the last moment. But, I thought we did well. I thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. So we'll look at different segments of this podcast. And the first segment we would want to tackle would be your coaching journey and the drive for African basketball. My first question is, let's start with the fundamentals. What inspired your transition from player to coach, and what was the moment you knew coaching was your calling?
I think as a player, I believe I had gotten to a point where I was a captain on a lot of teams, having a lot of young players around, needing guidance. Getting it, as you get older, you start to cross over the lines, have a lot more conversations with coaches. And it just, as your career comes to a close, you start to try to figure out what's next. For me, I was in Puerto Rico and I was playing and we ran out of transactions. So I was the last transaction, only one we could have. We needed a big man. Management sat down with me and spoke to me about, wanting me to stay, being the captain of the team, the momentum we had going into the playoffs, but we were in a tough situation. So they asked me, what did I feel? They didn't want to necessarily move me. I knew we needed a big man. And I just said, hey, I'm kind of interested in moving towards the next step in my life, in my career. Having an opportunity to coach would be great. I was already doing a lot of development with the young guys. And they said, really, you want to coach? And I said, yeah. And the coach was Nelson Colon, who was the Puerto Rico national team coach, now with Panama.
Okay.
Just went to Panama, but great coach, a great opportunity for me to learn and step up. So he did that. Crossing over that line was kind of tricky, but I love the challenge. And I think that's what we look for as basketball players. When our career is over, we want to be challenged. Coaching does that for me. It gives me the hands-on feel, the tactical aspect. You get to be on the court. The sweat equity is still there. And that was kind of my journey into coaching. Once I did that, I went home. I was already doing development over the years with a lot of players. Took over an organization called the Skill Factory, where I got a chance to manage a staff, manage logistics, manage development in many different ways. And that led to an opportunity that I got with Washington Wizards and their G League team, the Capital City Go-Go, in their first year. They were trying to build something. I had a great general manager in Pops Mensah Bonsu, who is actually an ambassador for the BAL. I started hearing about Africa basketball at that time. I went through my journey from Washington to Charlotte. Took my first head job over in Venezuela. Did 2 years over there. We did well. We were able to win a championship over there. I worked with the Nets, worked with the Hawks, and got a call. Got a call to be able to come to APR. Very surprising call. Opportunity just popped up. Everything started to align with the things and interests I had in the past. And I called Pops, who was actually my general manager, asked him about it. He gave me the thumbs up. He said, hey, this will be a great experience for you. And I got a chance to come. My wife was along with it. She gave me the go-ahead to go. It's tough when you have a family and stuff. But she said, hey, try it out. So I did. And then after that, we sat around as a family after we won the first championship. We decided that this could be a longer-term thing. So for me, I dove all in. The interest in basketball in Rwanda is great. The energy they have, the passion they have to be able to develop and grow the game of basketball. We have Okapi Sports, it's you have the broadcasting in the league now. A lot of talent here just needs to be cultivated, needs to be aligned, needs a little bit more structure. And me, that's my passion is for development in all aspects. So for me, it fits the bill pretty well.
Yeah. Big shout out to Pope Mensah Bonsu for actually giving you the heads up to actually take on the coaching job in Africa. Yeah, I think he really did well, and yeah, we acknowledge him for that. Actually, he's from the same country that I am, so we both from Ghana. So yeah. He's a
Okay.
countryman.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, pops. We played against each other. We played against each other as players back in the day. He was a very good player. Very good player. This was back when he was with the Mavericks when I first met him. We've been friends ever since. He became my first general manager I've ever had on a high level. He's given me great guidance, and I see him in the BAL all the time, so we get a chance to kind of hang out and stuff. So it's cool, man.
Yeah, exactly. This takes me to my second question. How would you describe your coaching philosophy? Has it evolved since you arrived in Rwanda?
Coaching philosophy. I believe in not really necessarily philosophy. It's more of a foundation, kind of like a pyramid. I believe in, competing. I believe in development. I believe in identity. I believe in creating habits, creating structure. Since I've been in Rwanda, speeding up the game. I like to play fast. I love offense with a lot of motion. I was fortunate enough to play on 6 different continents, so I've gotten a chance to experience almost every type of basketball there is. So being able to pull some cultures together and different styles and a mix of styles based on the players. I'm not a guy that likes to walk around with a system and try to apply it everywhere I go. I like for my system to adapt and evolve with my players. So it's definitely safe to say that here in Kigali, since I've been in Rwanda, my philosophy has evolved as I've seen the abilities and the talents and the potential of the players here in the country, how they respond to adversity, how they respond to leadership in different ways, their learning styles. So it's definitely evolved since I've been here, but we still have that underlying team chemistry. It's a big culture piece for us, being one in everything we do. We like to call ourselves, we move around like the mafia, where we're very, very tight. Like to create an open platform for players and coaches. We're very honest and open with each other. And we help each other grow. It's kind of like a 360-degree form of development that we have as people on and off the court. So that's kind of like how we've grown our philosophy here.
Yeah, I think that's a good chemistry you've built alongside with your players. I think that's one secret coaches must have going into management. I think that's what actually propel their tenant or their works in their teams. I want to ask also, where is your biggest influence as a coach, and what lesson from them do you carry with you every day on the bench?
It's tough for me to put a finger on one coach. My biggest influence, I've been fortunate enough to be with some great coaches everywhere I've gone. So many different coaches that have been national team coaches, so many different coaches that have been in the NBA. A lot of former players I know are now coaches or in management and different things like that. I think the influence comes from all around. I think that more so it's just the leadership aspect that I took from how I grew up, how my parents led me, how my father taught me how to lead, go through adversity and be able to be resilient in a lot of different cases. I think that's been more influential over my coaching career than just coaching itself. So I really like to take the time to get to know who I'm with and just, develop an identity in a real strong relationship with them. I think that's what influences my coaching the most. Being in different cultures, traveling around the world, using the different tools to create one toolbox of different ways to be able to tackle the goal. And I think that's what has been more influential as I've come here, is just using those different tools where I see fit, where appropriate, and being honest with myself through evaluation, self-evaluation, team evaluation, and continuing to understand what tools work and which ones don't. I think that's been what helps influence this coaching journey and just how we have success as a group.
Well said. And yeah, um, in this life, we always learn something new whenever we go or in whatever we do. I want to ask, what is the most important thing you've learned about yourself as a coach throughout your experience in Africa?
Patience. I think here I've learned to continue to be flexible.
Hmm.
Style of play changes here. One of the things I learned, there's so many different, I'll say nowadays, they say the trend in the NBA is like everybody's playing the same type of basketball. I think here in Africa, especially in the BAL, as you go from West Africa to East Africa to North Africa, South Africa, everybody's playing a little bit of different style. There's a great mix of coaches coming from Europe, coming from the US, coming from Latin America, different places like that. There's kind of starting to blend that style. The different physicalities, you have the taller, slender Senegalese, you have the stronger, more athletic Nigerians, you're getting all of these different mixes all at once and you're getting them in big doses. So I think what I've learned about myself is just how flexible I can be. Sometimes as a coach, you feel like if you're moving around too much or you're making too many adjustments, that you're not being solid in your foundation. And I found that I can have multiple foundations. I can have different structures and just be able to change how I play tonight versus how I'll play tomorrow, and being able to instill those different styles of plays in our group using different lineups. I just saw how the success I can have doing that versus the original view of, hey, if you jump around too much, you're not stable, that you can fail a lot more. You create a lot more holes. And the other thing is patience. Basketball is newer. It's not new, but it's newer here in Africa. A lot of resources players haven't had a chance to tap into yet. A lot of different styles of play or different techniques or strategies players or coaches may not have seen. So having patience in the teaching and the learning and understanding that Africa is still earlier on in basketball than maybe the United States is. So that's been the other part, is just learning that patience and continuing to learn how they grow, and actually going backwards to figuring out how I built myself as a coach and being able to move those pieces and put those pieces in place for the staff around me and for the players around me to be able to learn as well.
Yeah, that's deep, and I think I could pick one or two things from what you just said there and guide myself with it moving forward. Also, let's look at your era in APR. You've spent
Mhm.
2 years there, so I would ask, before the Tigers, you've built something special with APR, and you've won 2 titles with the club. Walk us through those championship runs. What made those teams so successful?
One, I just think our togetherness. We're very, very strong as a group from the first day I came, just taking the time out to make sure we know everybody on and off the court. It's not just basketball for us. We care about each other off the court, their development, different things going on in their personal lives, being supportive, and taking more of a longer view at a career, right? For our players and our group, it's not just about today. It's not just about tomorrow. It's not just about this season. I was fortunate enough to be able to have a long career playing, and I want that for every single player. So the big part of us is just continuing to increase value and everybody understanding that we want to get better. We want to have better playing jobs, better coaching jobs, or whatever may present in the future. Just being able to establish a long career for everybody in all of the departments, not just basketball, but you have your physios, you have your media department, you have your management, and everybody just becoming more locked into having a successful career in their respective fields, I think has really allowed all of us to be able to get on the same page. On the court, I think just we have some really, really, really good guys on our team. Personalities, a great blend of personalities, guys that enjoy being with each other off the court, having tournaments on PlayStation or Xbox, or going bowling, going to the movie together, going out together, dinners, different things like that. The girlfriends, the wives are close. They've developed a relationship, kind of like a Lady Lions of the APR, my wife included, So I think it's a big family-oriented approach that we've had here, and I think that's what's led to the success of our team, because I believe that every individual on our team genuinely wants the next man to succeed. I think that's been the biggest factor outside of just basketball strategy that has affected our growth and has really infused us with that energy to become as great as possible.
Yeah, well said, and think that's a bit much more inspirational, and that's kind of like a team bonding thing where it gives the team spirit and momentum alive. I guess winning one
Yes,
title
yes.
is difficult. Winning one title is difficult. Winning back-to-back title takes something extra. What was the mindset, the culture that you instill at APR to achieve this consistency throughout?
Resilience, being resilient. Going into that second championship was very, very tough. Teams, everybody's after you, but we just have to be resilient. We had a lot of ups and downs, continuing to evolve, changing up how we play, finding the strengths in different players at different times. Defensively, you have to be consistent, but we maintain our conditioning, we maintain our speed, we maintain our physicality. That's a major, major part of us. But again, not being satisfied, right? Not being satisfied where we are, continuing to find new solutions. Your mind either creates barriers or it creates bridges. We like to continue to create bridges to new things, new avenues, new ways of succeeding. That's what has allowed us to be able to get into the second championship, and that's what we carry today. Is we're constantly searching for the next thing. We're never satisfied of where we are. We like to be where our feet are, but we like to be realistic where we are and know exactly where we're going, so we could have the right process to get there. That's been how we've been able to continue to achieve victories, achieve wins, and be successful to this point. Is just continuing to study our opponent, continuing to stay in front of the wave of basketball, the different things that are coming at us, but mostly just being aware.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. So let's look back at your championship run through the. We're still on the championship run period. Looking back at the championship era at APR, which of those two championship victory stands out the most memorable and why?
Last season's victory really stands out. We faced a lot of adversity last year, a lot of injuries just before the BAL. Just during the season in general, we had games where we're playing with 8 guys. We had some guys miss half the season. We really went through a lot. It was really challenging on everybody. A lot of pressure, along with the BAL pressure. I went to the BAL, we played our hearts out and our bodies. We came back in pieces, had to go into a playoff. We hadn't seen a team in the league in 2 months. We had guys that couldn't practice during those games. And I feel like every day was a fight. Every day was a fight mentally and physically with our group. Went into the semifinals, we lose one, then we win, and we lose one, then we win, and we're able to close. But our backs were constantly against the wall the whole time. Going into the finals, not knowing who's healthy, Diarra leaving for summer league. We've just had, just challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge all the way through. So at the end, just our guys coming together and seeing the emotion that the guys had to be able to pull off the victory, the desire that guys had to get the job done and finish what we call finish our breakfast, just finish what we started. I think last year's was a much tougher journey and much more exciting and much more satisfying than what we could have asked for.
Yeah. You worked with some good players, the likes of Antino Jackson, with the likes of Aliu Diarra that you mentioned, with the likes of Habimana, with the likes of Empoyo and stuff. Who are these key players on this title-winning teams, and what role did they play in executing your vision on the court?
I think all of our players were key. Diarra's a standout player just because he had a unique ability to protect the rim. Very, very threatening aerial assault. A lot of rim pressure every time he rolls because he could finish up above people. Just really dominant in the paint. I thought he's been a really real key figure for us in our style of play. Antino, when he was here, his speed of play, passing the ball up the court. He could get the ball up the court with the best of them. Shares with his teammates a lot. Nore, very controlling with the ball, like a real floor general, cares about his teammates, knows when and where. He's kind of like my eyes and ears and my voice on the court when guys can't hear me. So having that connection with him is very, very key. We have John Victor Mukamba. That's a great leader, a very, very versatile player. He understands everybody's situation, everybody's position as well. So we've had quite a few guys. Yusin Ndoye, when he came in last year, leader. Real leader, physical, does all the dirty work. So you have a lot of these. We have a lot of characters like that, though. It's hard to shrink them down into just a few. I believe everybody has done a great job, and our team captain William, he just does a good job of keeping a group together, being early, staying late, and just really making sure that everybody understands what it takes to continue to be successful. So. Again, it's hard to pull it down into just a few players. I just think it's the culture that we built and the natural people the natural characteristics and personality these guys have that, just makes it all come together.
Okay. I would also want to ask, Coach, what lesson from these APR championship season have you carried or did you carry alongside going to work with the RSSB Tigers? Even though we know you went alongside with some of the players like Empoyo, like Gatan, Habimana, what was the work you put in, or what was this lesson that you carried along?
For us, after everything, we had to sit back and see and really pay attention to the things we were successful at. I think that in a lot of senses, when you don't win the championship, a lot of people want to look at the failure and they want to try to figure out what the mistake was. That takes out the ability of, not the ability, but the possibility of guys just having a bad night or having a bad streak and just different things like that. Everything doesn't come down to players or coaches or, we did a lot of things well last year. We spent a lot of time researching other teams, ourselves, how the games evolved, the different coaches coming in. and we had prepared as APR to go for it all. When everything happened, we carried 6 players over: Craig Randall, TFL Leonard, Mangok, Nore, Axel, Gaston. We carried guys over into Tigers with us. I think we decided to go in, because it took a minute, right? You have to be able to commit in a situation like this. But we went in with the focus of, look, we've come this far. We can't throw away all the work that we've done over the last 2 years to get ourselves to a position. Yes, we don't have our whole squad, but we have to be able to give our all to try to lead this group. So even though we joined another team, we went in as with a leadership mentality. We've been there. We're experienced. We know how to win games. We know the work that's involved. And we went in as teachers, right? We needed to show the newer players and Henry, the coach, and just really make sure that guys understood the level that was needed to be able to succeed. The level of scouting, the level of tactical work, the level of practice, scheduling, the amount of rest that you need, the amount of medical attention, all of these different things we've learned over the years. The first year at APR, things weren't that great, and we slowly evolved and slowly learned those things. So I think we went in with more of a leadership mentality through this phase, more of a teaching mentality and just kind of like pull guys along, make sure everybody was on the right page. I think that's what allowed us to be able to be successful, especially in the earlier games. We leaned on ourselves a lot. We leaned on our imports and our locals a lot to be able to get us through as everybody else was just kind of catching the flow and catching the rhythm. And I think that start to the conference is what allowed us to be able to continue and carry through. We had a few injuries, a few bumps along the way, but I think it became infectious with everybody. And more people got behind us as they began to believe in what we can do. And all of that, you saw the players with the hard hats, the resilience. Here in Rwanda, it's a big thing when backs are against the wall, Rwandans respond. So that was our duty as a team, is to, despite all the challenges, to go out and be able to respond. And I think we did that at a high level.
Yeah. Talking about the RSSB Tigers, let's shift our focus completely on the RSSB Tigers 10 on. Let's reflect on the Tigers' incredible 4-1 run in the Kalahari Conference. Tell me, Coach, when you look back at the 4-1 record as a debutant in the BAL, what was the turning point or the significant moments that made you believe this team could compete with any team or anyone?
I think it was actually during the game against Benghazi, during the first game. We didn't have a lot of time to prepare. We prepared maybe I can't even say 10 days, maybe with the whole group, maybe 5 days. So it was just in that game, seeing how many players sacrificed or were unselfish. In a situation like this, when you have a blended group, it's easy for players to feel entitled to certain things or feel like they should be able to do what they normally would do in their team and things like that, including the coaches, right? Myself and Henry and everybody was kind of used to their own way of doing things. I think during that game, some of those conversations, the way decisions were made, the motivation, the encouragement that players gave each other and coaches were able to give players and stuff like that. I think in that moment, I think in the second half is when we kind of really hit a stride and understood what we could be as a group. Great performances by Craig Randall, T. Leonard, Mangok. And Tino played well in that first game, played really well. It was just you saw like a respect come between the group of, hey man, like, we can really do this together. Obviously, the Rwanda-Libya, game from last year has really, really carried over. One of the most viewed games, one of the most anticipated, being a tip-off game with the BAL this year. But the crazy thing is just two completely different groups, right? From last year. But I think, us realizing that, hey, we had a high risk, high reward roster, just with the personalities, some of the mixes of players. But yeah, in that second half, you just saw us get infused with energy. You saw us just kind of come together and really start believing, really getting past egos or anything else and really just start believing. And once I saw that, I knew that, okay, we have a shot at doing something here. We had to continue to channel it, but we saw that X factor. You got to have that X factor to be able to have success in the conference and in the BAL in general. And we saw that competitiveness come out of our guys all in the same direction, all at the same time.
Yeah. Well said, and I was also say I was a bit shocked, but I was surprised with the first game. To be sincere with you, seeing Tigers put up that incredible performance against the El Ali Benghazi team. And I was a bit happy because my guy was showing some good signs. The person of Tino Jackson, a very close friend of mine.
Yeah.
So I was actually happy for him after that win, though. Yeah, let's talk about this also. You were RSSB
And
Tigers.
speaking of
You
him, that
guys,
was the confirmation, going back to what you were saying about where I see the turning point of believing is the confirmation, I think, was the shot that he hit against Petro. I think that was the confirming moment. For me, again, I thought it was like that second half going into in the Benghazi game. I saw it click, but in Petro, that was the confirming moment. Down the stretch of that game, the plays that were made, the guys being up, and then even despite not having like the best night, team captain coming through and making that shot, it just, that kind of stamped it for everybody.
yeah, exactly.
So that was for the rest of the group. I think that would have been the moment that they said, "Hey, we've arrived."
Yeah, definitely. I won't dispute you on that. That shot was one hell of a shot there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Seeing RSSB Tigers as debutants, this is their first year replacing APR who couldn't take it to the podium. What do you think RSSB Tigers did right tactically, mentally, or strategically that other debut teams often get wrong in the BAL?
I mean, I think, yeah, it's a debutante team, but I think we carried a lot more experience into the BAL than most debutantes do. Just with, we've had players that now have played. APR players have played the last few years. Other players they've played in the BAL before, or at least the road to BAL, and they've experienced. These players have experienced. So at first, I was, as a debutante, yes, but we had a lot of experience on the team. And I think that was the thing, is like we just, for the majority of the group, we knew what was coming. Being there last year for the players from APR and myself, we were just there. So we have a fresh perspective on, or like an experienced perspective on what was coming, how teams were preparing because of all the research. But I think also with the RSSB staff members and some of the players, it was a fresh perspective, right? Sometimes you have to mix that fresh perspective with the research you've already done just to give a different outlook. I think that for us was good. I don't particularly think that we were the best we could be offensively or defensively. I thought we were very consistent night in and night out, exactly how we were going to play. The production came from the same place. And we kind of leaned on our strengths. We really, really focused on our strengths versus, maybe some debutantes come in and they're worried about the opponent so much. We weren't worried about the opponent so much. We were just worried about making sure we got the most juice out of the lemon as we could from our players and from the staff. And I think that that might have been something we did differently than maybe like a Johannesburg or maybe a Dar City, is we really, really focused on our group more than we focused on the opponent.
Noted. Well said there. I was privileged to watch all five of your games along the line in the Kalahari conference. My question is, which of those five games tested your coaching staff the most, and how did you adjust in real time to secure a win?
Petro, definitely Petro. Henry's done a great job of giving me the space to be able to do what I do, and me continuing to just be respectful of him. As we come together, we blend as staff. But it was definitely the Petro game because he and I have different styles.
Definitely.
In that game, sometimes it comes down to regular philosophies. Late game, do you want the ball in the front court? Do you want it in the back court? Do we need more ball handling? Do we need something else? I think, and especially because offensively, I've been manning the offensive end. And he's been focused a lot on defense, is just understanding how offense and defense blends, right? How our defense leads to our offense, the type of risk that I'm willing to take versus the type of security that he likes to have. All of those things were tested in Petro. Subs late in the game, who's in foul trouble, who's not, and how do you attack them, or what kind of defense do we go? I think, Petro is just a team that comes with a lot of physicality. They don't go away. They have a lot of different talent. They could get to the basket. They could shoot the basketball, and they're experienced winners. Like, those guys are winners. They make it to the end every time.
Yeah.
Their coach does a great job. He was actually the coach of Mexico national team when I was playing for Dominican Republic. So I played against him before. He's always been good from Spain, and he'll switch things up.
Yeah.
Give you a different look. So it just challenged us. Again, you have the research side of experience, and then you have a newer outlook of Henry, of how he's seeing things today. And, you're trying to blend those things in real action in a tight game that's going basket for basket. You get down, you get it back, you score, they score. You go down, you go up, fouls. And it was a lot of game situations, when to call a timeout. A lot of game situations just kind of came up in that game. And your players in that moment, they start to align with their coach. That's the that's the other challenge. You're trying to keep everybody together. But it's, they're going to trust their coach. Your players are going to trust you. So if any moment in some joint decisions, if it looks like you don't support the other decision, your players aren't going to support it either.
Yeah.
So that was our first adversity moment. We grabbed the coaches. We got together right after the game on the court, probably showed up on film. And, it was just like, hey, we've had, this was our first moment of adversity we had together, and we survived it, and just taking that as a positive and continuing to figure out how we're going to be able to make that work night in, night out. So we needed that game to really push us forward. And, as a staff, we didn't know how it was going to be coming in. So we needed that late game moment against that team, and for it to come out as a victory, to kind of really give us confidence on how well we would be able to work together the rest of the way.
And I can also say, from me watching the games so far, I could say Petro was the one texted the most, the one which was a tough one for the team as well. And the guys kept their heads together to secure that one, and it was a crucial one indeed. And kudos to the boys and the coaching staff as well. Before we move on to the next segment, my last question here would be, was there a specific player or rotation decision that exceeded your expectation during the conference?
No, not really. I think everybody brought to the table exactly what we thought they would. A lot of senses people could say, maybe Craig Randall, breaking a record in the performance he had. For me, I've coached him before with the Nets. I know he was capable of. I've seen him score 40 points many times. His brother went to my school. I know his father well. So none of that kind of surprised me on just the way he's played. I've always known that he was capable of that. I think Mango may have been very surprising to me. Not very surprising, but he doesn't call himself a scorer. And some of the numbers that he was putting up, some of the battles he was able to win on a consistent basis was just amazing. The rebounding battle, we didn't have a ton of bigs. But to dominate on the glass the way he had. And the crazy thing is, at the end, when you look back, he actually could have played a lot better, played a lot of minutes, legs and different things like that. Running the floor, he did a great job running the floor, but to be able to sustain it the way he did through the conference, I think was more surprising to me, again, because I know Craig more, because I've coached him for the whole season before. So his was less surprising to me. Mango would have been more surprising because it was my first time coaching. Even though I know him, my first time coaching him at length like this and seeing him just every day, his consistent work, consistently in the weight room, takes practice seriously, and just was able to carry that through every moment of every game. I thought it was very, very impressive.
That's nice. And Mangok, I would agree with you on that. Mangok was a pillar in that front court, and crashing the boards with those rebounds. He was a two-way productive player, both on offense and defense, and a key player to the Tigers team. Let's look at the homecoming. I call this segment the homecoming. You've qualified to the finals, and this finals is unfortunately this finals will be at home, whereby you have all the fans solidly behind you, cheer you up and stuff. So I purposely call this the homecoming, preparing for the Kigali finals. My first question is, now that the playoffs or the finals is coming to Kigali, how does the energy and pressure change when you are playing at home in front of your fans?
It's definitely here in Rwanda. There's a ton of pressure. I think that you had a small moment when everything just kind of happened with the BAL, where the type of pressure changed, right? It changed to, are we going to be able to put it together? Now that we had a performance we did in the conference, all the other pressure came back. The expectation to win, the expectation for every player to be well every night, every coaching decision to be 100% correct. And even then, it's still wrong. It's the country's voice. The country's voice is loud. Again, Rwanda is a country that through adversity, they've shown a lot of resilience and ability to be able to respond. So now I don't think this situation is any different. I think they expect us to play well. They expect us to improve over this little bit of time we have before the playoffs. And they expect big things. They a lot of Rwandans rallied around us. You saw the teams unite, the fans of the different teams just unite. I mentioned this last year, we went to the BAL. It's like Once it became an international competition, you just saw the country unite, just like a one strong group. I
Yeah.
think that the pressure here now is the same. I think it's the same as last year. We teams have failed to make it back to Rwanda, or APR failed to make it back to Rwanda a few years ago. That was kind of like the thorn in everybody's side and what everybody was nervous about. Now that we've done that as Tigers, I think that everybody expects us to win it. So it's definitely a high level of pressure, and it'll become more. Right now, there's a little break, but as May 1st comes and we slowly creep into it, and you start to, you see the other teams after the 24th of April just kind of play. I think the expectations will grow as everybody sees the other teams and starts to imagine the different capabilities that we have as a group.
Yeah. I would also like to ask, what specific preparations are you and the coaching staffs putting in place now that you will be competing on home soil?
One right now is just refining all of our tactical stuff. As I said, the group hasn't been together enough yet. We know what everybody's capable of, but continuing to blend those talents is very, very important, especially offensively. We had very high usage out of our guards, overuse out of our guards and certain players. How can we refine our rotation? Defensively, how can we be better just using guys' strengths? Because when you get to the playoffs, defense is a major, major key. Offensively, they're going to take things away. We know where we can go with it, but we got to be able to play with more variety. But again, we prepared in a short time. So technically, I think that's going to be a big piece for us. Getting guys healthy. You saw in the Nairobi game, we had a few guys banged up. Nori was banged up. Craig was banged up. We had more guys that were, TFL was banged up. So getting healthy is very, very important for us. And then just making sure that we develop enough chemistry, having enough time together on and off the court, having enough conversations, being able to challenge each other and wrap around and make sure that everything is thought of. And we've done that. We've had meetings so far, but just making sure everybody now has a clear picture. Because as I said, before we went, you had a lot of people that didn't have any experience in the BAL. Now they do. So they've seen some things, they've heard some things, they've had some conversations. So just making sure we put all the information we've gathered together and go through it diligently is the most important step for us right now.
Talking about keeping the players in shape after those injuries you encountered in the Kalahari conference, how do you balance rest and recovery with sharpening the team's edge after such an intense conference run?
For us, well, the first thing for us was rest and separation. It's very hard to describe what we went through. On one end, you have players that have prepared for 2 years. On another end, you have players with a newfound gold, for example, right? But just lack the experience. When you're blending the teams, you have players on APR side, you have players left behind that have done the work with you, right? So that weighs on you. With the new guys, you have everybody didn't get a chance to join. So some people get to take advantage of the experience and some guys miss out, right? So you have that. So there's a lot of strain, sadness, happiness, surprise, guilt, doubt. There were so many different things that went on when everything happened over those few weeks that nobody ever rested. It was a constant, I could say for me and a lot of guys, it was constant sleepless nights and just headaches and fatigue and all the way through the conference. So, the first thing that we had to do was just kind of separate, let everybody get their airspace and just really just heal or become whole with everything that went on. Get the situation past us. Just breathe for a second. So that's the first part. People don't understand that a lot of injury comes from stress, more so than just regular basketball. The stress puts the weight on your body. It was actually something I recently talking about Luka Doncic and the same thing, talking about all the stress and everything that he has, and he continues to get injured. That's a big, big part of sport. The mental health part is a big part for your mind, for your body, for your spirit is very, very important. So first thing for us was just making sure that guys can just clear their mental space. Some guys are back working out. We just bring guys back slowly, start them off and just get them focusing on their individual skill, individual abilities, allow them to get healthy and work through that, giving them enough time for rest, but also balancing that with some individual improvement. As guys feel good about themselves, their confidence grows and they're now able to, when they rejoin the group, they're able to add more to the group. Fresh perspective, fresh legs, fresh movements. fresh execution, and then you mix that along with all of the tactical work that we're doing, all the reparations and stuff that we're doing right now to just try to adjust to our group. So that's the major part. And then I think, as we come back together, as we start practicing, reblending our talent, and again, just I think our players carried everything from their individual teams into the BAL. Right now, we have to have an identity. And I think we built a nice characteristic through the resilience, and that was the players thing. That was all the players coming up with the hard hat and the resilience. So that was great to see. But now turning that into a culture, turning that into our identity is the most important part. So I think that's what we will focus on the most as we rebuild the group and with the goal of hitting our stride closer to May 22nd.
Okay. Um, in some few days, the Sahara Conference would kick off, whereby we see the other 6 teams compete to get the 4 teams for the finals in Kigali.
Mhm.
I would like to ask, which potential opponents in the playoffs worries you the most and why?
Worries? Worries a strong word. um, Al Ali Egypt is obviously, they'll be very good. Club African will be good. But again, you have teams like MacTown, these debutantes. You don't really know what they're going to bring to the table. I think it'll be very interesting to see how the team performs in that conference. There's a lot of it's a different style of basketball, right? A lot more Northern African teams, a lot of shooting, a lot of spacing. Not the same type of physicality, but a hustle mentality to them. Sharing the basketball, moving the basketball. I think everybody knows that Al Ali will be good, but it's tough to say until you see what they have this year and how they're playing. It's tough to say who you fear the most, because again, teams evolve. They add different things. Those teams can be watching our conference and they've added stuff that they think they're going to need to be successful when they start playing the teams that were playing in our conference, right? So some of that stuff might show its head through this conference. But every night, every game, thing about the BAL is anybody can win any given night, despite what the records are at the end. Sometimes you look at the records at the end and you say, oh, it wasn't a challenge. No, it was definitely a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. Teams like Nairobi, those type of teams like never go away. They're so resilient. If you make the mistakes, they're right there. In the Dar City game, an hour, beating us, and you can be right there. So it's tough to point out a team that you're most feared of. You got to see the team, and then from there you can start to measure who's going to give you who you perceive to give you the toughest challenge. And a lot of times it's not what you think. It's just who. Sometimes it's like a rivalry. Sometimes you have the best team versus the worst team, and it could be a tough game every single time because they just know your style, the matchup. Things like that get under your skin. So, I think we just have to see what happens in this conference before we can determine who we think is the toughest. But us, again, in my mindset, I could definitely tell you it's more about us. It's more about our preparation and us being the best version of RSSB Tigers that we can. If we do that, we could be competitive any night, regardless of who the opponent is.
Well said, coach. And what is this one area of the Tigers team game that still needs improvement before the final tip off?
Definitely have to. Ball handling still, secondary handlers. Again, we had high usage out of our guards, wore them down quite a bit. We'll be able to do that. It's not always on the players. It's just figuring out where else we go with it. We had some guys that control the basketball with their respective teams, right? Now you're bringing them together. Right, so you're trying to find ways to continue to use them. Continue to, spread out our shooting, find ways to implement, Axel Empoya was a guy that hit 10 threes last year before Craig broke the record this year. So, getting him going, getting Gaston going, some of those shooters, finding a way for Mango to be able to get a little bit of rest, get a little help. We had some good success with playing double bigs. Actually, it was our most productive lineup, averaging almost 2 points per possession. So for me, offensively, it's a task, but it's just normal work. And then defensively, it's just, refining our system. Again, Henry and I have different systems on how we defend. So you have to eliminate some of that confusion in key moments that players have because they fell into, their own system. It's just creating a system, again, an identity for Tigers that we could lean on each and every night. We could count on each and every night. It showed during the Nairobi game, we just couldn't be consistent defensively anywhere, So making sure that we really clean that up is very, very important for us.
Okay, well noted. In this segment of the episode, and I normally used to do this with every expert I interview on the show, whereby I like them to advise the aspiring young kids who would want to take up a role in coaching or whatever field it may be. So this segment or section will be about advice to the young guys or young lads who would want to also be like Coach James Meyer one day in the future or something. It's not always we all are going to be playing on the courts. We all have to, some want to be referees, some want to be coaches, some want to be interviewer, journalist or something. My first question is, Coach, for a young African watching whose dream of becoming who dreams of becoming a coach at the highest level, what is the most important piece of advice you will give them?
I think the real key is just studying. Know as much as you can. Know as much as you can. Study the game in different ways, right? Don't just watch the NBA. Don't just watch African basketball. Watch European basketball and listen. One of the things I think is key for coaches, like listen to a lot of interviews. Coaches will share with you the struggles that they go through, the decisions that they have to make, the different challenges that just present themselves as a coach. Being prepared for that is a big, big, big piece of coaching. It doesn't just have to be coaches, it's leadership in general. Leadership in general. Through any industry, a coach has to be a manager. You can listen to different management things. A coach has to be a leader. You could listen to different leadership speakers, stuff like that. Through all of that, gain an identity, mixing your personality, your characteristic with it, you will gain an identity. The identity of a coach is going to make the identity of your team. And that, to me, is the most important part of everything when it comes to leadership. You're trying to lead a group of men or women, right? It could be either side of the ball. You have to be refined in who you are as a coach. And all of those different, how you lead, how you speak, how you communicate, all of those different things are important. So I would say, watch and listen a lot. Study, do the research and really know as much as you can. I think that's the first step to coaching. And then just not believe in yourself and just, and trust yourself, right? Live, with your mistakes, use them as feedback, make adjustments, and then just give it a go again. Don't kill yourself over it. Just continue to learn along the way from any mistakes and stuff that you make. As a coach, you have to be in the field. You can't be afraid to take risks. Take those risks, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
We already said you spent some few years on the continent of Africa coaching. What skills beyond the X's and the O's are essential for a coach to succeed in Africa's unique basketball environment?
Matching the passion of the people, and just understanding where African people come from, like how they grew up, how they nurtured and just kind of grown in life is very, very important. For me, getting a chance to play in the African Club Championships, which is now the BAL technically. A long time ago, I got a chance to be on a continent and mix with different players and play this same level of competition. And not just here, but anywhere I've gone is just important to know where they come from, know what they've gone through, know what their struggle was, right? And how we all ended up in the same place. Relating to those stories, I think is very, very important in the success here. But again, it's the passion. I think here in Africa, there's a lot of drive and desire to be great in a lot of different aspects, and you have to be able to match that energy.
How important is mentorship and networking in coaching? And what advice do you have for someone trying to break into the profession with no connections?
Be around. You just have to show up at things. Basketball Without Borders circulates on the continent. Very important to be at those things. Different coaches conferences have come around, whether it's online, and just you got to spend more time with people that's trying to do the same thing as you. They say that in all areas of life and business, right? And different things, you have to try to be with successful people. The more you're around, the more those conversations are had. I had a coach last year that couldn't be around as much, and they would ask me, hey, how can I grow in this aspect? How can I grow in that? And I used to tell them, sometimes you just have to be around. You have to be around and engage yourself in those conversations. BAL is doing a great job right now of getting coaches to be able to be invited to NBA Summer League. Senegal just had some games going on in Senegal last week. Uganda just had an event. I think it was the 9th through the 13th, have players and stuff. You just got to continue to be around people in the basketball space and just listen. The more you're around, like FaceTime is the best you can do. And I'm not talking about Apple FaceTime, be around, be in those conversations, say hello. You'll get a chance to voice an opinion. You'll get a chance to hear an opinion. You'll be able to engage in a conversation. To me, that's the simplest way. Especially BAL, when I see these hotels and everybody's just around, it's the same. Like, it reminds me of NBA Summer League, right? You're just around each other, and everything presents itself. Nobody's like hiding. Just be around. That's what I would say. Be around.
Okay. before we move to the next segment also, my last question on this advice section would be, what is one mistake you see young coaches make repeatedly, and how can they avoid it?
Not finding their voice, being too timid. And I would say don't step on people's toes. But in coaching, you kind of have to jump off the ledge. You kind of have to kind of like just jump into it. You have to speak up. You have to make decisions. That's what coaching is. Coaching is 1,000 decisions a day, and you have to be able to make those decisions. As you make them, you're going to make some mistakes, but you'll learn how to have conviction in what it is that you're thinking. To really believe in what your thoughts are. And you have to be able to speak. If you can't speak, it's hard for you to present a scout. It's hard for you to present a game plan. It's hard for you to lead a drill. You have to have presence. And that's just going to come with repetition. Repetition of jumping off the ledge, just jumping out there. Know your stuff, do the research like I said, but then again, be around, voice those opinions, and make decisions. I think a lot of young coaches sit in the reserves too long. They sit in the back too long and they don't want to do it. Coaches on my staff, I constantly push them off the ledge. Uncomfortable, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but they get better. At the end, they're thankful, they're grateful, and they grow. So it's important to put yourself in a position to grow.
Yeah. To all the young coaches out there, you just heard that from Coach Maya, and just take one or two words from what he just said from here and guide yourself with it. And I think maybe you become the next Coach Maya on the continent moving forward. Let's look at your legacy you want to leave on the continent of Africa when your tenure comes to an end, or your coaching career comes to an end on the continent of Africa. When your coaching career in Africa eventually comes to an end, coach, what legacy do you hope to leave behind at APR or even across the continent?
The key word for me would be impact. I want to be known as somebody that made impact as a coach. Impacted the culture, impacted lives, impacted basketball in general. I want to see people succeed. I'm interested in not just coaching, but investment, leadership, just anything I can, development of coaches, of players. I want people to remember and just say, hey, James came and he gave everything he could to the people from a basketball perspective. Everything he had, he left, and it made impact. I want players to, for me, it's not necessarily about my name. It's about the players at the end and the people at the end believing that they did it themselves, right? We can't make an impact without the receiving end having the desire to do so, having a desire or a passion to do something. Me, I want to be the person that brings that out of you. I want to be the person that pushes you to a limit and makes you uncomfortable. I'm okay being a bad guy today, but later on, you saying, hey, he impacted me in a positive way. He really, really helped me get to where I wanted to get to, or reach a level of success. For me, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want them to say, hey, man, he had impact. He really, really made an impact. And for people to just believe that, and just as long as I know that, I'm good. If I can't make an impact, I won't be able to sleep. But I want to be known as somebody that had impact, and continue to do so for a lot of years.
That's well said. And also, what do you want African basketball fans, players, and fellow coaches to remember about Coach James Maya at the end of your tenure?
That I was passionate about the game, that I love to give a show with our teams, to entertain people, to engage fans, engage community. I want them to know that I don't rest. Very tactical, very evaluation oriented, very detailed, but more so just a coach that really, really puts the players first. Really believes in players, encourages players to be the best they possibly could be. Confidence, a guy that really, really instills confidence in his group. That's what I want to be remembered as a coach.
Moving on, if you could change one thing about basketball in Africa before you leave, what would that be?
Almost, I want to say the resources, not like basketball courts, because I know that like you have different people putting in basketball courts, but I don't think a lot of basketball in Africa has access to enough resources, how to scout, just very technical things. I think just, there haven't been as many specialists or many coaches that have really dove into just kind of making sure that everybody is on the same page as far as technical things, how to do video, how to scout, how to make a scouting report, how to layer your player development. Those are the different things I think can really help infuse the basketball community here. I know some coaches come and they do it on their own, but actually going out here and teaching young coaches, developing young coaches, creating more specialists in the coaching field, I think that'll be a big help to basketball in Africa. The resource, the courts and the facilities, and if you could do that, if I could do that, that'll be great. But it's like, how many of those can you do? You know what I mean? It takes a lot of money, a lot of financial resources to do a lot of those things. But the other stuff is just effort, time, and energy to really, really just teach that technical framework of the coaching that a lot of coaches here just aren't getting.
Okay. I guess the federations are listening. If Africa is listening, and they would work towards it and help you achieve this before your tenant comes to an end. I think you saying it here now would give them the exposure. They will listen and then take some steps towards that. Also, what keeps you motivated on tough days? Is it the losses, the frustrations, or the setbacks?
What keeps me motivated on which days? On most days?
On the tough days, on your tough days.
The desire to win. My mission is to win every day. What does that mean? Doesn't mean you have to win a game every day, but you have to leave every day better than yesterday. That's what motivates me, is just coming out knowing that I made progress, that we were able to move forward in a positive direction. That's what motivates me on those tough days. And the other thing is just, at home, outside of basketball, I have my wife, I have my kids, they're looking at me. I'm in a leadership role every single day. They cheer me on. They push me to be better. They push me off the edge. They encourage me. They, if I'm not good, they tell me. And it's, you want to continue keeping the ones that are supporting you and love you the whole way. You want to keep them happy as well. They want to see the best of you, so you continuously want to give the best of yourself. That's what motivates me each and every day. I fall down, they're telling me to get up. If I get up, they're telling me to move forward. Definitely the motivation of my family each and every day, wanting to see me succeed, really, really pushes me to strive for that each and every moment that I have.
And kudos to the family for pushing you each and every time. And we'll also be here pushing you though. We'll be pushing you from behind the screens actually. So let's move to the fun part of this whole thing, where I call the lightning round. I ask you some few questions and then we'll see what your takes are on. Okay, so I want to ask the best players you've ever coached in Africa. The best player you've ever coached in Africa. Who would that be?
One best player?
The one best player. Yes, I know it's a tough one, but you have to just give this. Okay, let's make it much easier here. Okay,
that one is so tough.
Let's make it the best 2 or 3 players you've ever coached in Africa.
Mango Mathiang is definitely one of the best bigs that I've coached. I think undoubtedly, Nori Habamana is one of the best technical guards as far as like really reading the game and understanding what's needed and at what moments. A lot of stuff that he does goes overlooked, but he has a very, very high efficiency, very, very high value to how he keeps a team together as a floor general. And of course, Aliou Diarra. Aliou Diarra is he's one of the best talents I've seen on the continent. His timing, his ability to affect the game in so many ways, his impact on the game in so many ways. He definitely is at the top of that list.
Okay, the other one would be the toughest opponents you've ever faced as a coach in Africa.
Team?
Yes, toughest opponents.
Tripoli. Tripoli's been the toughest because I think they're just scrappy. When we played Tripoli last year, they just their ability to win every 50-50 intangible moment of a game is incredible. They'll win 1 against 3 on a loose ball. They get the deflection in the key time. They were just all over the place. I think that's it's very rare to have multiple guys on a team that can all do the intangibles at the same time. That's what made them so tough. So I definitely think that's been the toughest. That Al Ahly Tripoli team have been the toughest mix of players and abilities that I've coached against here in Africa.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is your top 5 Rwandan players right now. Top 5. Yes.
John Victor Mukama right now is playing a high level of basketball. Rwandese, born in Canada, but Rwandese, no doubt, very multi-talented in a lot of different ways. He's definitely got to be top 5 right this moment. He has to be there. Again, I think Nori Habimana, like I said, I think he's He's just really, intellectual, like just really, really knows the game at a very, very high level. Definitely top 5. And Tino doesn't naturalize. He doesn't count. Can't count him.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can't count him. Can I? Should he be able to be in that list? Because I think he's playing a
He
super high
could.
level of
He's
basketball right now,
yeah.
especially in Rwanda. He's playing a very, very high level of basketball. His ability to get the ball up the court, infuse the speed in his team. Especially with Tigers right now, he's doing a great job of really pushing them forward where they can be. Yeah, very high level. I think Axel Mpoyo has been pretty good in a different way than most people have seen him. He, especially known like as a shooter, he's done shown a lot more off the dribble this year, a lot more attacking the rim this year. So from an improved perspective, I think that he's been really, really good. What Cheese has been doing in Kepler has been very, very impressive as well. Just his ability to be able to score the ball, affect the game, get rebounds, slash. I think he's done a very, very good job in Rwanda. Paul Bizimana is probably more like a rookie of the year. He's done very, very, very good job, very effective, especially in his first year as a professional, learning how to play the game. I mean, I could go on. I could go on about quite a few guys that have been pretty. There's been a lot of guys injured and stuff. So I don't really want to go based on just opinion. I kind of want to go on fact of like guys that are on the floor right now. So that's kind of how and I think Saj has been pretty good in Patriots. He's shown to be really improved. I think he's on the way. He's on the way as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would want to ask also one favorite place or your favorite place to visit in Rwanda when you need to escape from basketball. What place would that be?
Right now, I just like going to the Pinnacle, man. The Pinnacle in Kigali, they have good food. They have a nice little movie theater there. It's kind of like a spot that I could get away with my wife. I don't necessarily take the kids there, but I get away with my wife, and I just could kind of, it's kind of like a members only type thing set up, even though people can go there. But I like to just kind of go do that. Outside of that, I don't really have a lot of outdoor places and stuff that I've just gone to just relax. I've been super engaged in work since I landed in the country a couple of years ago. But I spend a lot of time also at home, just kind of like relaxing in the space and just being quiet and getting a breather that way. So, but the Pinnacle, I think the Pinnacle is real cool to just go. You got the pool, you got the bowling alley, you got the movie theater, you got the restaurants. You have so many different things. I think that that's a pretty cool place to go to just kind of, and it's super quiet to kind of be in your own little world.
I think you just marketed Rwanda to me now. I'll put that on my list when I visit Rwanda. So yeah. Okay. So one word to describe coaching in Rwanda.
Me coaching or the coaches?
No, you coaching.
Coaching in Rwanda for me?
Yes. One word to describe it.
Satisfying.
Satisfying. That's nice. We'll take your final words, coach. Before we go, final words. What is your message to Rwandan fans who would pack the arena in Kigali for the BL finals? What can you expect? What should they expect from the Tigers?
You guys are going to see a team come out that's very, very resilient. A team that's going to be unified. That's going to fight every second of every game to the buzzer goes. A team that's going to leave everything on the court and that's committed to serving the country and being able to give you guys the best entertainment possible.
Guys, you heard this from Coach himself. Said the Tigers are ready to give you some entertaining basketball. So yeah, on that day, you just have to pack yourself, get yourself ready, and head out to go support them in the finals. Thank you, Coach. Thank you for having you, and thank you for your honesty and your incredible work growing the game in Rwanda and across Africa. 2 titles with APR, a historic 4-1 debut with the Tigers, and now a homecoming from finals in Kigali. Thank you for your time, Coach, and we will be watching actually.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great conversation. Everybody come see us in the finals.
Yeah, everybody, you have to go to Kigali and go watch them. Yeah, to our listeners, if you enjoy this conversation, share it with a coach or a player who needs to hear it. This is how we grow the game. This has been Growing the Game, and my name is Kweku Kekeli, your host. Thank you.